Imagine the shock, pain, anger you'd feel if somebody close to you, someone you loved and trusted, committed a serious crime. News Center Sharon Rose Vasnes is here with an example of that type of collateral damage. She calls it Kat's story. Sharon?
Pat and Cindy, this particular story involves a young woman who's actually been an acquaintance of mine for many years. And I can tell you that she and those closest to her have been scarred by something they never saw coming. A beautiful Sunday in April, Katherine Lacasse and Jeremy Link practice a dance for their wedding day less than 3 weeks away. The social worker and the cheering and tumbling coach, the mom and dad of a beautiful little girl, moving in step to their happily ever after.
Like, this is all how it was meant to be. Like, it felt very serendipitous and like right.
He was the one.
Yeah. I thought so.
Just 6 days later, that happily ever after turned into hell on earth.
It's almost hard to remember in some ways because it was just like such a daze.
Is accused of sexually abusing a minor.
I couldn't control anything that was happening.
Sexual relations with a 14-year-old girl.
I wanted nothing more than for this to be a lie or a misunderstanding.
But as more details came to light,
The victim told them she and Link were romantically involved.
Katherine says it became clear the man she loved, the father of her child, had deceived and betrayed her.
It just felt like my world came crashing in. Like, it didn't explode. It felt like it was like imploding. Like, everything became so much smaller and darker and scarier, and I just couldn't breathe.
Katherine's friends and family quickly rallied around her, making arrangements to cancel the wedding, taking turns staying with her and little Molly, and showering them with small acts of kindness.
They would do things like bring me a coffee or pack me a lunch. And then one of my friends even went so far as to leave me an inspirational card for each morning through the entire month.
But even with all that love and support, Katherine says it took all she had just to get through the days.
Never knew that I could be so profoundly sad. Yeah, just really sad.
Not just for herself, but for her 2-year-old daughter as well.
She kept on going to the window and looking for him and just saying, "Daddy." And so I, again, would just hold her face and look at her in the eye, and I just said, "Daddy made some poor decisions, so he can't be here right now."
Putting on a brave face for her little girl, while inside dealing with crushing grief and self-doubt.
Just having a background in psychology, I really beat myself up initially for how could I have not known? I carried a lot of guilt. I was really angry with myself, how could I have not known?
This is a more common story than I ever imagined.
Lee Mackenzie can certainly relate. She married a con artist named Kenner Jones and went on to write a book about her experience titled The Charming Predator. She says people like her ex-husband are master manipulators.
Oh yes, I can look back at the trail of breadcrumbs and it's clear. But at the time, when it's a crumb at a time, it's easy to push it aside, go, you know what, maybe I'm making this up. Maybe I'm looking for things that aren't there. A person who loves you would never do this to you. I must be misunderstanding.
In the 6 months since Jeremy's arrest, Katherine has finally stopped blaming herself and has even learned to let go of the nagging question, why?
The best I can come up with is that I won't get it because I'm not sick, and so how could I ever understand it?
Jeremy Link is now serving a 22-month prison sentence. Katherine continues to move forward with her baby girl. In fact, as much as this is a story of shock and pain, it's also a story of hope and healing. And we're going to take a closer look at that part tomorrow. Also, be sure to visit our website for our full interview with Lee Mackenzie, more on Katherine's story, and a link to her blogs. And right after our newscast, we are going to be on Facebook Live with 2 trauma specialists to talk about how a person recovers from something like this or any type of trauma, big or small. Pat and Cindy.
Thank you,
So
Sharon.
interesting. Thanks.
It's a story you may remember seeing here on News Center. A 43-year-old cheering and tumbling coach charged with having sex with one of his 14-year-old students. Jeremy Link was arrested in April.
In July, he reached a plea deal with prosecutors and was sentenced to 22 months in prison. What you didn't see in the news is that Link had a fiancé. In fact, he was arrested just 2 weeks before their planned wedding date.
News Center's Sharon Rose Vasna sat down with his former fiancé and is here now with more of her story. Sharon?
Well, Pat, Cindy, Katherine Lacasse's story is an example of the collateral damage that happens when a crime like this is committed. Last night, we looked at what a crushing blow Jeremy Link's arrest was for her. Tonight, her fight to put her life back together without him.
To help myself heal, the first thing that I really did was start to write.
It began with a single blog entitled An Open Letter to the Universe on the Day I Was Supposed to Get Married. In just a few short paragraphs, all the despair.
So today, there will be no tent. My dress will hang somewhere.
And anger.
I'm so pissed.
Tempered only by the sheer strength of her will.
Today, not with my words, but with my actions, I will make vows to myself and to the little girl that you have left behind.
Came pouring out. And in sharing her vulnerability, Katherine found strength.
When I posted it, I was really doing it for myself to, like I said, gain some power that day and like stand in the truth of like where I was, and to try to kind of like, my motto has become like making lemonade out of lemons. Like, how can I turn this day around? And then people started just like sharing my post, and I was like, oh wow, like I didn't expect that.
To date, that letter to the universe has more than 13,000 views.
It almost kind of became like an empowering thing on many levels, where like I felt like I had this like army of strength behind me, and each person that like shared my letter or read my letter or reached out to me because of my letter or another blog, like I felt like I was gaining more strength and power from that, which is why I kept on doing it.
6 months and several blogs later, the scars are beginning to heal, but the pain is still right there under the surface, ready to bubble up at any time.
It is very up and down and cyclical, and you have like, or I have like good moments and then bad moments or good days. I don't know if I've had a good week in entirety, but I get closer to that, and then it kind of hits you, the reality of what's happened. So I find myself grieving again.
As for Jeremy Link,
It's my belief that he doesn't have the capacity to understand what he's really done here.
she has cut off all contact with him and says her life now is all about moving forward with their 2-year-old daughter, Molly.
What does Julio say?
Have you forgiven Jeremy, or do you think you can?
So I hope that for Molly's sake and for my sake, my soul's sake, that someday on some level that can exist. But I don't know the right answer.
Still too raw.
Yeah.
It was, after all, a betrayal so crushing, even the word trust has taken on new meaning.
For me, like, trust is really like trusting that no matter what happens, I'm gonna be okay. And like after this, that I'm still standing and breathing and surviving and living and actually kind of thriving with Molly. Like, that just is enough. It's more than enough.
Gonna get your nosy. Say hi, everybody.
Hey, Daddy!
Where'd everybody go?
Everybody will go. Right there!
If I can trust that I can come out of this doing what we're doing now, then I trust that everything will be okay.
Or maybe even better than okay.
Can I have a smoochie?
When I'm like most in touch like with myself, I feel like I can't help but believe that something that is as equally awesome as this has been excruciating is like on the other side for me, but like most of all for Molly too, you know? Like I feel like we're worthy of that.
One brave and strong young woman right there. And just want to remind everyone that we do have much more on Katherine's story, including a link to her blog site and an in-depth interview with 2 trauma specialists on our websites and mobile apps. Pat,
Right.
Cindy?
Thank you,
Really
Sharon.
something. Thank you.